Great. So, hi everyone. Happy to be here. Thank you, the NUG team, for hosting us. My name is Amitai Ratzon. I'm CallVU's VP of Global Sales. We can say that by now we're a proud partner of NICE for the past 2 years, and we feel very privileged to be here today and host this webinar for you. So today, actually, our agenda is quite interesting. We're going to talk about, as the title implies, omni-channel that works, with a strong focus around the needs and I would say the customers of financial services organizations, which are the prime target market for CallVU. So a word of context: CallVU is a technology fintech company based out of Tel Aviv and New York. We're kind of known in the industry for being the market leader in mobile digital engagement. I run sales globally for the company, and as I said, NICE is one of our partners. When it comes to the agenda, so we're going to start off by talking about some of the key challenges with omnichannel. Then we're going to talk about, omnichannel, what it means for consumers, some of the misconceptions that we have come across lately. As part of that, we will demonstrate so it's going to be a live demonstration of how CallVU addresses some of the omnichannel issues and how we actually bring many capabilities together. And we're going to end with a case study of a credit card company, and then we're going to leave some room for Q&A. I hope you will have an enjoyable webinar. So before starting the conversation and assume too much, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to what omnichannel really is. When I speak to customers and partners, people use omnichannel and multi-channel in many cases as if it's the same thing. So when we talk about omnichannel, we kind of refer to the cross-channel business model that companies use to improve their customer experience. Omnichannel assumes that the customer wishes to engage the company in multiple ways at the same time, as opposed to the multi-channel approach that just basically means me as an enterprise, I have various ways to engage with a customer, which is not news to anyone. So let's kind of talk about a bit about some of the data points that we have to set the context and set the grounds for this discussion, for the conversation. First of all, we see that out of all the communication channels, calls are still the predominant manner of contacting contact centers. So CallVU data implies that over 68% of all queries to customer support are from the phone channel. And maybe the most interesting data point that you can see all the way to the left on the upper side of the screen, that 50% of calls, surprisingly enough, are really around basic information. And furthermore, the preferred service channel and the channel used, in fact, don't match 30% of the time in balance transaction and in check-related services. So this might sound to some of you as an absurd, because I guess most of you on the phone today, including myself, might assume that when customers would like to, for example, check current account balance or redeem credit card reward points and do things of that kind, they would just go to the app or to mobile web. I mean, why would someone call for something as basic as that? But if that's how you think, apparently you're not representative of the bigger population, where we see that most calls are still under are done to achieve very basic things. Another interesting data point: so operating a contact center is an expensive business, as you all know much better than me. A good thing for companies like CallVU, we have realized with a very large U.S. financial institution that saving can basically we're actually the data that actually materialized in the marketplace. This company will be able to save 1 million per second in call reduction and an annual of 2.4 million per 0.1% increase in deflection to digital. So any little micro change, any one call, any 1 second that we can deflect to digital could be very big. An organization like Fidelity Investments, for example, out of 50,000 employees, employs 25,000 individuals in the contact center business. So you might assume just that just in one organization, just how much money could be saved for organizations like Fidelity if we are able to deflect callers and people who seek service to digital more than they do without us. Now, let's look at a survey done by Dimension Data in 2016 that talks about the various service channels across age groups. So surprisingly or not surprisingly, we see that phone is still, as we said before, the most predominant communication means. We see it, I would say, less and less among the millennials, but still it is quite dramatic from the ages 35 to 70 plus. So basically, when people talk about the fact that they run or they operate an omni-channel strategy, what do they really mean? So what do we find when you speak to our customers? And my job brings me to many places in the world. When I kind of engage in a conversation like that, and when I try to understand whether the customer in front of me is really omni-channel, what I typically hear, in most cases, I wouldn't say in all cases, is that the view is very much agent-centric. So what I do here is that people tell me, hey, our agents, they're using, of course, the phone channel. They're able to chat with multiple customers at the same time. They're able to engage in smartphone calls. They can send emails. They have interface with the IVR, of course. Maybe we can do some stuff over Facebook. But then, the question is, okay, so the agent can cater for channels, but do our customers perceive us as omni-channel? So obviously, the agent can engage in multiple ways in 2017. That's for granted. But is it really that our customer perceive us as an omni-channel entity, or is it really the siloed experience that prevails still in the perception of our customers? Said enough, in many instances, our customers tell us, from customer surveys we run at CallVU and from what we hear from our customers, is that people in the call center are unaware of what just happened in a branch, and the branch agent advisor is unaware that I've just completed activity A, B, C in the app or mobile web. The app is unaware of what just happened in the call center. So the siloed experience is still an issue that the industry is dealing with. And if we look at basically converting into a real omni-channel customer experience, we talk about blending, how we can blend digital and contact center basically together in a way that kind of creates the feel of a virtual branch. And we also see that when you do that, there are many opportunities to introduce digital and reuse existing digital content into phone calls and into the branch. And when we demo CallVU in a few minutes, you will see exactly an illustration of what I'm trying to say here. So for us at CallVU, when we talk about omni-channel, we talk about engaging customers in their channel of choice, matching the right channel to intent, and the whole notion of carrying context between channels, which is extremely important. We very often hear that customers say, hey, why do you need to ask me this question again, Mr. Agent? I've just kind of typed it before the call got connected to you. I mean, the IVR asked me many questions. I answered many questions, but now you treat me as if I'm a complete stranger. Hey, didn't the context carried from the IVR to the agent session? We see it many times when we update our personal data in the app, but then we go to the branch, in the bank's branch, the agent actually tells us, hey, we still have your previous address. So these are the type of problems that we see and that we try to solve. A very interesting phenomena is the fact that today, low-value transactions are still done all over the place. So if you look at the chart on the right side, it looks at the business process value with respect to the interaction frequency. So what do we see today? Today we see many low-value transactions being spread across all channels. And if you think, let me give you an example. People today inquire on cash balance and branch location and things like that, in the app, in the web, when they go to when they call the contact center. So in many cases, we see that when agents are not value-adding, they're still being asked very trivial and very basic questions. And that's very frustrating for both the agents and the customers. So agents, at least we hear from many banks today, they want to convert the contact center into an engagement center, and they seek creative ways to deflect and decouple the low-value transactions from the high-value transactions. So, but just the ambitious to do that doesn't mean that it's really easy, because it's not. It's really hard to control what a given customer will ask on a given call. We cannot tell the customers what to ask, right? They will ask whatever they want. So how do we take it to the next stage? So what we do here at CallVU, what we do is we're basically moving towards value-driven engagements. Our technology is actually capable of decoupling the low-value transactions from the high-value transactions. So a vehicle that we're going to demonstrate in a minute, like visual IVR or digital IVR, is a classic vehicle to drive very basic queries to digital self-service, while passing through the high-value queries to agents and to a virtual branch experience. So if someone calls and someone wants to inquire about a mortgage or about something, or someone has a debate about the mutual fund they want to hold and they want to speak to someone, obviously we're not going to put a robot in front of this person. However, if someone would just like to redeem credit card reward points or check the recent transactions and things like that, where an agent is not value adding, we would push them to digital self-service in a way that is very trivial and very natural, and the person would not feel neglected by the bank, but to the contrary, the person will feel empowered. They would feel that they would actually, I hope, relate to this new way of doing business with them. And here, this takes me to an example of how visual IVR by CallVU could help deflecting the low-value activities to digital self-service. And let me kind of play the video for you, and I'll walk you through it as I do that. So I'm going to simulate a situation where a customer calls from their smartphone device, calls the contact center or calls the bank. And the first thing that happens is the legacy IVR systems, whether it's the Avayas, the Genesis, the Ciscos of the world, that usually give us the selection menu. Now, in the typical situation, we need to put our phone next to our ear and pay close attention to the options that get displayed. For balance, press 1. For this, press 2. For that, press 4. For that, press 6. And if we, God forbid, missed something, we need to play it again and maybe call again. And let me show you how CallVU makes this experience much easier and much more current. So this is basically the call. A person dials a number of the bank. As soon as doing so, in this case, the person holds an Android device. Visual IVR gets displayed while the prompt still runs on speakerphone. You need to authenticate yourself as if you're in the app. We use the authentication used for telephony banking in this case. Then we can display any information the person wants to get to see without the need to kind of put him in front of very complex options. So we also allow customers to transfer money, which is a complex backend process that is currently only done via via the app. So we can bring these processes into the front. This is just an example of a money transfer. Before that, we saw check account balance. This is a person transferring money as part of a phone call. So I'm on a phone. During the phone, CallVU displayed visuals from the app or from the mobile web of the bank, and it is a seamless experience that the customer has never experienced before. You can apply for a loan, see the loan information, and do many cool things in self-service instead of speaking to a human being in situations where a human being is not value-adding. And of course, whenever we see that the customer would like to do something of high value, like potentially apply for a loan, secured or unsecured loan, or things like that, inquire about an investment vehicle, etc., we could easily convert the call to an agent But if you remember the slide before, we would make sure that all the low-value transactions remain in digital self-service. Think about it. Without CallVU or something like CallVU, we give the option to choose whether to speak to an agent or not on the very basic things to the customer without even challenging the customer, without telling them, hey, there might be an easier way. It might be easier to just, click here, and then you'll be able to disconnect in just a second. So bear with us. That's what we're trying to do here. I want to share with you a short case study. I cannot reveal too much here, but the title here is How Can a Credit Card Company Achieve 5% of Call Volume Reduction? And we saw before how valuable that is from a cash point of view. Utilizing an omni-channel strategy. So the company I want to share with you is actually Visa, somewhere in EMEA. This company has 3 million customers in that particular country with 100,000 merchants working with it. They had to deal with 700,000 calls per month to IVR. Before they met us, before they started talking to us, they had a 62% IVR call containment, which means that 6 out of 10 individuals that called the company were actually able to achieve what they wanted to achieve in the usual good old IVR process, and 4 out of 10 either went to agents or disconnected after the initial prompts was played. So 3 months in production, these are the results that we saw there. And the type of things we did, we basically did an IVR authentication. We extracted personal information of customers from the web, the Visa web presence. We actually displayed the post-call survey from the IVR. We just displayed it visually, and we allowed customers there to reset their password and via the IVR and the chat. So we did many things there. The results after 3 months in production were quite astonishing. With CallVU Visual IVR, the company improved the IVR containment to 75%. So we were able to generate additional 13% of call containment. So more people stayed in self-service and did not go to agents and did not give up because of the Visual IVR technology. Out of the people that were introduced this new technology, 15% actually went with the Visual IVR all the way. And if you think about it, that's quite good. It's only for the first 3 months. In CallVU, you see something like 30% adoption after 1 year, about 45% adoption in the second year. In the third year, we see many, very impressive things. It goes beyond 50 and 60. But in the first 3 months, these are numbers we got. And if we look at the overall call deflection, it was about 5.2%. And the good thing there was that customers over there didn't have, so this company doesn't have the app in that particular country. They didn't have an app. So the way it worked is whenever I called Visa in that country, I received an SMS immediately with a link. And opening the link basically triggered a mobile web experience that lasted for the whole engagement. So the voice call was happening in parallel to me navigating through mobile web, and if you look at Android versus iOS distribution, these are the numbers. I'm sure you guys might have questions for me, so please, take notes, and we'll leave some room for questions in just a bit. I think I'll be finishing the presentation before the allocated time, which would leave us more time for questions. As we talked about CallVU as an omni-channel tool or solution, way beyond just simple phone calls, I want to share with you some of the other access channels that CallVU today utilizes to deliver this omni-channel experience. Another module we have is called Mobile Connect. And if you think about it, and maybe each person on the phone, on the call, could ask themselves this question. When you try to approach your service provider, say it's the insurance company, your credit card company, your bank, do you necessarily remember this guy's phone number? Is it necessarily on your contact list? So in case it's not, you're in good company of 70% of customers of financial institutions that do not remember the phone number by heart. And what they do, they start the journey by Googling, basically. And when you go to Google, you kind of click Wells Fargo, contact us, San Francisco, or Citibank contact us, Mayopac, New York, and then you get the number, and let me show you what CallVU does, how CallVU basically intercepts that Google search, and how we put those guys who look for their bank's phone number over such search, how we intercept the call or the query and put it on a digital self-service, which would remind you of what you saw just a minute ago. So I'm playing the video. In this case, the customer looks for, the Wells Fargo, the local Wells Fargo contact number because they don't remember it by heart. The Google search gives a result. This is, of course, a fictitious bank called My Bank that we have invented for sake of demos. And each bank has their Start Your Call Here button. So in a typical case, when you click on Start Your Call Here, you would go into a voice call. But what CallVU does, we're intercepting it. And we're basically displaying an IVR-like, a visual IVR-like visual representation. So what you saw before comes back here again. And we're authenticating you as you would be authenticated in telephony banking. And once you're authenticated, whether you approach us by dialing the number or by a Google search, you're able to complete what you wanted to complete in digital self-service. Isn't this what OmniChannel is all about, right? So a seamless experience across all channels. So the selection menu is the same. The look and feel is the same when you select a specific option. That's what OmniChannel really means for us. So unified service experience across all service channels. In this case, we just took a disabling the credit card example. Another thing we do, and some of you might say, hey, Facebook bots, that's too far in the future for us. Well, that's okay. But what we see that many of our banks that we speak to in the US and beyond the US tell us today that Facebook, like WhatsApp and others, are very much a service channel, and they ask us, hey, CallVU, how can you expose the IVR, or at least the service parts of the IVR, if not the transactional parts of the IVR, how can you expose that over Facebook if you could at all? So this is just an example of how CallVU exposes the IVR over Facebook, utilizing the Facebook Messenger tool. So in this case, we're going to the bank's page. Again, this fictitious bank called My Bank. We're sending the bank a message. And unlike typical chat mechanisms with CallVU, when you get started with your bank on Facebook, the bank identifies you, the CallVU bot identifies you, asks you, what do you want to do today? Let's say you want to do an everyday banking thing. So Facebook asks you to authenticate. For those of you who care about security, and I'm sure it's all of you, authentication could happen outside Facebook, inside Facebook. It's a matter of preference of the bank, of the financial institution. Once you're authenticated over Facebook, you could see your current balance and potentially the recent transactions. And let's say that your credit card was stolen and was lost, and you're desperate and you really want to cancel the credit card immediately, and you don't know the number and you just want to do it over Facebook. We're allowing you to tell us which credit card was stolen. You need to select it. This is just an example. Of course, we can do many things, but this is just like a use case that repeats over Facebook. You can cancel the credit card. The bot tells you, no problem, my friend, you're all secure. In a few hours, and a human agent will approach you. Is there anything else you want to do at this point? And you say yes, no, whatever, and you continue. So this was another example of an omni-channel experience. So context gets carried from the IVR, in this case into Facebook, in the previous case into a mobile, into the mobile connect experience. So customers feel that no matter how they approach the bank, via Facebook, via phone call, via the app, via Google search, it is the same bank and the same entity that understands everything about them without having to do explanations again and again and again of why you called and how come they'd never heard about it. Maybe the last thing we do, and here I'm going to spare you the demo. We can do this demo at a later stage. Another good example of being an omni-channel company is that the agents basically are able to interact with customers and they understand the context of what happened in the previous stage before the call got connected. So how many times it happens to you guys on the phone with me right now that a customer calls your company and the agent gets on the phone with the customer because the customer opted, zeroed out or clicked on the agent picture, and when the agent speaks to the customer says, hey, did you see what I just did? Do you know who I am? And then the agent says, hey, but can you give me your ID again or your social security again? And the customer says, hey, you didn't see everything I did in the IVR just, a minute ago? How come? So with CallVU, context gets carried from, the DTMF IVR or the visual IVR into the agent-caller collaboration session. At this point, we're allowing the agent, to share pictures, share forms, share, a mortgage calculator with customers and display that over the customer's smartphone device. How many times it happened to me that I said, oh my God, if this service provider could just show me what they mean, just send me a picture, for heaven's sake. I have an iPhone 7, so just share it with me. Instead of explaining to me, a picture is better than 1,000 words, and CallVU makes that phrase, that slogan, a reality. Okay, to conclude, if you look at, the CallVU value proposition, we look at, our innovative OmniChannel Hub as a hub that offers consumers to use their channel of choice, as opposed to the bank's preferred channel of choice, both web call with digital self-service and a branch-like collaboration experience. And when we do that, we basically allow we actually divert customer to digital self-service in a very elegant and nice way that without a bridge like CallVU that bridges the telephony world with the digital richness that exists in the enterprise would just not be made possible. Maybe I'm going to finish with, what Gartner have been saying about us. So CallVU, we're proud to, to be announced a Gartner cool vendor in the space of CRM and customer support. So this was acknowledged by Gartner last year, and on their statement, you can read it in their website. I'm sure that many of you pay attention to what Gartner publishes every once in a while. They talked about us, and they said that the desired color journey in 2017 is about swipe, type, and talk, and that we provide just such visual representation of information and process flow, and in addition, all kinds of other marketing compliments that I'm not going to overwhelm you with. Okay, so I hope I wasn't, too fast. I know I did speak fast. I hope it wasn't too fast. I will pause now, and I'm very happy to take any questions. And if you guys want to take me back to a slide or to a capability or to what I meant when I said A, B, or C, that's exactly the place to do that. So I'm pausing now, and I'm happy to take any question.
And just as a reminder, you can use that Q&A box in the bottom right-hand side of your screen to ask questions. And Anise Jones-Martin of PHI and the NUG board is here with us to moderate your questions, so please just ask them using that Q&A box.
This is Anise. So, Amitai, this is Anise. I wanted to ask you a question. On slide 7, you talked about some customer channel preferences, and this kind of caught my eye. And the reason why it caught my eye is because you have down here the contact channel most used for age groups. Do you know for sure, like from 25 to 35, are they actually just under the social app and the social and the app, or maybe the chat? Do you have anything to support any of these contact channels?
Okay, great question. So first of all, a word of disclaimer: the data below comes from a Dimension data survey, not from the CallVU internal data. And to the second part of your question, indeed, in the CallVU world, I think I've shown it before. When we talk about delivering an omni-channel experience, we look at all the service channels. So phone call, obviously, basically blending app capabilities and web capabilities into a phone call. We've talked about it when I showed you the visual IVR tool. in addition to that, I've demonstrated the Facebook thing. So we're using Facebook Messenger as a means to broadcast or to expose IVR capabilities to customers. So definitely CallVU lives in all of those worlds together. We do it simultaneously in a way that the customer would never even question or doubt whether context indeed got carried from one channel to the next. I hope it answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
And you know, I had one more question I'm going to ask you. Give me 1 minute. I just need to find which slide I had written it on. So with the Omni Digital, can you do other? So I know you used a credit card. You used a credit card as an example, but in that omni-channel, would the individual or the customer be able to go in and possibly change their due date? Can they change their transfer monies?
Yeah.
Ask for
Excellent
extensions, that kind of stuff as well?
Excellent question. So first of all, when you say if we allow that, the answer is we allow whatever, you know, the credit card company or the bank or the insurance company or the wealth manager wants us to allow. So to the extent that when you go to the app, you could do anything. So if the app of that credit card company or the bank allows to change the billing cycle and allows to change address, etc., then CallVU obviously allows that because we ride on the business rules that the enterprise already has. The only thing we do, if you think about it, we're serving as a bridge between the good old, not to say primitive, telephony experience and the digital asset that already exists. So if you think about it, a caller that would like to change their billing cycle doesn't need to wait until the prompt says to change your billing cycle, press 9, right? Or for billing inquiries, press whatever. You can already see it in front of you, and when you click, as opposed to just click on the 1, 2, or when you actually click on the option, when you let's say change billing cycle, CallVU reuses the exact app screen, the exact app page, or the exact web page, and we broadcast it to the caller's iPhone or caller's Android, so that the change of cycle, billing cycle, or the change of address could happen immediately in an app-like, style, app-like manner, right? Because of the fact that we serve as a bridge between the non-digital and the old world, if you want, and the new world. As long as the enterprise has this capability somewhere, doesn't really matter where, CallVU basically bridges and brings that to the front so that anyone could use that, not just those who have the app.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Those were excellent questions, and it looks like that you've done such a good job presenting that you've solved everybody's questions. So thank you so much for your time today. And if you want to perhaps end on that final slide that shows your contact information, everybody please take note. This is how you can get in touch with the good folks from CallVU. And the session is being recorded and will be stored in the NUG Resources Library later today. And we hope you will join us for a future webinar. Thank you so much, and that concludes today's event.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.